Today, we're pulling back the curtain on something that, let's be honest, shapes our lives way more than we realize: manipulation. And to do that, we're going to use Arthur Horn's book as our guide to break down how it all really works.
So let's just start with a big question. Are you being manipulated right now? It's a little unsettling to think about, isn't it? But the book we're looking at today argues that for pretty much all of us, the answer is, yeah, probably. So the real question isn't if it's happening, but how.
And look, we're not just talking about some movie villain stuff here. This is in the ads we scroll past, it's in the way your boss tries to motivate the team, and yeah, it can even be in our closest relationships. So today, we're going to deconstruct that hidden rulebook so you can start to see the plays as they happen.
Okay, so to really get a grip on the mechanics, we have to do something important first. We need to look past the word manipulation and its bad reputation and just start with a clear, objective definition.
So, what's the deal with influence versus manipulation? The framework in this book makes it super simple. Think of influence as this big umbrella. Under that umbrella, you've got a few different things: inspiration, emulation, and yep, manipulation. So, all manipulation is a type of influence, but not all influence is manipulation. Simple as that.
Now here's where this framework gets really interesting. We tend to think of persuasion as the good guy, the honest alternative to manipulation. But this book, it defines persuasion as just one specific tool inside the manipulator's toolbox. It's not the opposite, it's a part of it.
And that brings us right to the book's core definition. But take a close look at what's missing here. There's no mention of harm or malice or anything evil. It's just a neutral mechanical description. It's an attempt to change behavior to serve a goal. And staying objective like this is absolutely crucial if we want to understand how it all works.
So now that we're on the same page with the definition, let's open up the manipulator's toolkit. The book breaks it all down into 3 fundamental tools. If you can spot these, you can spot pretty much any strategy.
First up, we've got power. But hold on, the definition here might surprise you. It's not about being the strongest or the loudest person in the room. It's actually something way more subtle.
See, in this context, power is all about the ability to help other people succeed, or, of course, the ability to make them fail. This can come from formal authority, like a manager who can give you a raise. But what's just as important is reputation, what people believe you can do. That belief all by itself is a form of power.
Next up is persuasion, which we just touched on. This is probably the most straightforward tool in the whole kit, but as we're about to see, how well it works really depends on the situation.
At its heart, persuasion is just trying to change someone's actions using arguments or reason. And the book points out that it really only works well in 2 scenarios. 1, when you give someone new information that totally changes their perspective, or 2, when they already trust you and believe your goals are aligned with theirs.
And that brings us to the third tool, which the author says is pretty much central to a ton of manipulative strategies, and that is deception. Deception here is defined really simply as the control of information. And it makes perfect sense, right? If people make decisions based on the information they have, then if you control that information, you can influence their decisions. The whole point of deception is to make the other person believe that the thing you want them to do is actually in their own best interest.
So, there we have it. The tools: power, persuasion, and deception. Now let's look at how they get mixed and matched in the real world to create specific strategies that I guarantee you've seen before.
Let's start with a total classic: the carrot and the stick. You know this one. A boss offers a bonus for hitting a target. That's the carrot. The threat of getting a bad performance review. That's the stick. It's just a simple, direct combination of using power, the ability to help or to hinder, to get a specific result.
Okay, now let's get into something a little more emotionally complicated: the guilt trip. We've all been on the receiving end of one, but have you ever actually stopped to think about the mechanics behind it?
Well, the book breaks it down into a pretty clear 4-step process. First, the manipulator makes you feel indebted by pointing out your mistake. Second, they use persuasion to convince you of just how serious that mistake was. Third, that triggers a fear in you of losing your good reputation, your perceived power. And finally, that fear is what compels you to make it right, which, of course, is the action the manipulator wanted from the very beginning.
So using these tools obviously brings up some pretty big moral questions. And while the book doesn't give you any easy answers, it does give us a framework for thinking through this ethical gray zone.
It often comes down to that classic dilemma. Do the ends justify the means? I mean, you could use a manipulative tactic like deception for what seems like a positive outcome. The book gives an example of telling a kid their favorite superhero loves eating vegetables. The mean is deception, but the end is a healthier diet. So is that okay? Well, the book leaves that for you to decide.
So after all this, what's the ultimate point of learning it all? Is it so you can become a master manipulator? No, not according to the author. The real value here is in building your defense.
And this is really the biggest takeaway. Knowledge is your shield. Once you understand the definitions, the tools, and the tactics, you're not just a passive target anymore. You can actually see the game being played around you.
So how do you actually put that into practice? The book suggests you become a kind of objective analyst of your own life. Start asking questions. What are this person's real goals? Which tools are they using right now? Power, persuasion, deception? And wait a minute, why am I having such a strong emotional reaction to this? When you can answer those questions, you can see the influence for what it really is.
And that's the final question we'll leave you with. By deconstructing all these mechanics, hopefully we've made the invisible just a little more visible. So now that you can see the strings, who's pulling them?